8 a.m. We'll go ahead and start our meeting. If we could get a pledge of allegiance. John, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Could we get a motion to approve our minutes of our regular meeting and work session from March 17th?
So moved.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. We get a motion to approve our demands and handwritten warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed, as we all have reviewed those, and especially the ones that are above $1,000. And they appear to be in order, so I'd make a motion that we go ahead and pay our bills and that we approve the demands and handwritten warrants for payment.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. We have, and I'll turn the time over to Mindy from the Superior Court.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, I am seeking approval to ratify an agreement with Dr. James Holmes for Rule 11 evaluations. This will take us through fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26. It's a limited services contract, basically for competency evaluations. We now have, this will be the third doctor that we have. Dr. Cooper Lopez will be our main doctor, but when she gets busy, we need other people to take the Rule 11s. And so a party cannot proceed to trial if they're deemed incompetent, and so we have to provide RTC evaluation and treatment for them. So again, this will expire on June 30th, and it's coming out of the same fund as Dr. Cooper Lopez.
Great.
We're just here to ratify this agreement, correct?
Yeah, they already had to assign 2 evaluations to him in February because we were so far behind.
Okay.
So I'm just seeking ratification. I think we've used him in the past.
Very good. I've looked at the rate schedule. I'm no expert, but it appears to be reasonable. And,
It's very reasonable. I've actually checked with other counties, and they're paying in upwards of $1,500 for an evaluation, and we're nowhere near that.
yeah,
So I
paying,
think
what,
we're doing pretty good.
$500.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the base. Okay, thank you very much, April. I would go ahead. Any other before I make a motion?
Not sure. No.
Okay, I'll move that we go ahead and ratify, since this had to be taken care of previously, but it's in good order, and we ratify the FY 25 and 26 agreement with Dr. James Holmes for the Superior Court.
And I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mindy. Turn the time over to Mr. Andrews from probation.
Mr. Chairman, while he's coming up, may I just make a comment?
Yes, sir.
A few weeks ago, Herman called me and asked if they could apply for this grant, and the deadline was before this meeting. I told them to go ahead and that we'd ratify it. I made a mistake, Herman, so this says approval, not approval to ratify. So
Okay.
when you make a motion, if you'll amend it to approval to ratify and not just approval. So I apologize.
Thank you.
And this is a JCRF grant, and what we're doing with this is we're trying to get all the free money we can to do upgrades into our education program. So being that the state has this grant available, we're gonna apply for it to get new computers, a smart screen in the computer education department, and training for MRT for juveniles, because it's now offered for juveniles. So we'll send our counselor and our coordinator to the training and get training materials for that to bring back to our community.
That's awesome.
All for their dollars.
Yeah. Thank you for going after that. Any other?
Yeah, I had a question for you, and that is, with this remote or internet learning, whoever's providing that, is that provided by the individual school districts, or is that provided by a third party? And if so, are we sending the tuition payments for the, are we basically taking money from the school district since they're not able to attend school and transferring it to this third-party vendor?
No, actually, what's happening is kids are getting expelled. If they're on probation, we bring them into the education department and we have them do online schooling. So it's whatever Safford School is, and then Thatcher School, Pima School. So those kids have their programs through that school district, but they do it in our building.
That's good. Well, I was concerned that we're continuing to pull money out of our schools, and that's a very positive thing. So the remote learning, they painted themselves into a corner. They no longer have other options. So
Right.
That's the best outcome for them, and I appreciate the efforts, and it is, there's no free lunch. And when it says someone else's money, it's our money.
Yeah.
It just gets laundered through the state and then comes back. So, okay, I'm on board. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate your efforts, Herman, on this. This is something that needs to be done, so I'd be glad to make a motion to approve and ratify to apply for Juvenile Crime Reduction Fund grant.
And I'll second Supervisor Howard's motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Herman.
Thank you, guys.
We'll now turn the time over to Michael Bryce from our engineering department.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dustin.
Morning.
Morning.
Asking for approval of a Tetra Tech Professional Services Agreement. This is amendment number 7. We've had a lot of different amendments on this. This has to do with the NRCS grant where they're studying the flows that come into the canal from off-site and then flood the towns and so on. And the area that they're studying has been large, and it's taken them quite a bit of time to do it, and they're asking for some additional money, which we have through NRCS. So just asking for approval of that amendment.
Okay.
Michael, this has been going on for quite some time. How long, we've been going on a couple years with this probably? Are we getting any movement on it? I mean, this situation, I would think is a little bit urgent for one of these days. We're gonna have that other big rain and these canals are gonna flow and break and not know where to go. So are we any closer to moving forward? I know this is just a study. It's not a construction plan, but I just was curious, are we getting any closer to this?
We are seeing some movement. Actually, their agreement with NRCS runs out first week of August. And so unless they get another extension or something, should be wrapping up.
Wow, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. As you approach your retirement, is Eric Engel, is he have enough participation in this that he will be able to move forward without too much of a loss of information?
Well, Eric's been involved in this as it's gone along. Plus, I understand that I will be available to.
Okay, good. And then my other, are we kind of nudging, and like a tugboat, are we just kind of nudging these people toward solutions that are affordable, that we can go ahead and do something with, rather than having remote operations with your cell phone, having to bring electricity to all the different head gates to be able to raise and lower them? Are we getting a practical solution, or are they giving us the Cadillac version.
Well, everyone on the Canal District would like to see the availability to control the gates. But what we would be focusing on is those gates that would actually have some impact on the towns and cities. And right now they're trying to select the alternatives, and that's what we're pushing for, is for them to select alternatives that would have that type of impact. And our last meeting with them, I asked them to look more closely at the areas that have the impact on the towns and cities, because they were kind of throwing things at the wall all over the valley, trying to think that if they could try to please everybody in different parts of the valley, that might be something that they should do. And I told them, no, they need to focus more on solving a problem and not just giving us solutions that don't solve anything.
Thank you for your leadership on this and your career of experience in water and flood control. So thank you. I'm satisfied, Mr. Chairman, and I would just ask, as we prepare to vote on this, that we have a work session prior to our engineer's retirement, a work session to kind of pass the torch and give us an update on where we're at. So, but I'd go ahead and make a motion that we approve the Tetra Tech Professional Services Agreement, Amendment number 7.
And I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
So the next item is an approval of memorandum of understanding between Graham County and Richard M. and Mary G. Claridge Living Trust. This has to do with the Central Dam. Yeah, we've been, the ownership of that dam has been under question for quite a while. It's on the Claridge's land, and they have received letters that from the Department of Water Resources, and the county has helped with some maintenance, with the understanding that we're not taking ownership of the dam, but we understand that it does need to be maintained. And this memorandum of understanding, the purpose of it is the state has indicated that there may be funds to evaluate that dam. They have identified some things that they think may be issues with the dam, and they want to be able to evaluate it to see if in fact there are issues with it. And in order to even approach trying to get those funds, they need to have permission of the landowner to be able to access the dam and to perform studies on the dam.
So that's what this agreement is for, to give them allow access to look at this dam. Is that correct?
Right, and to perform studies on it.
Okay.
A comment, Mr. Chairman, and that is, first of all, thank you for your efforts on this. And I imagine our county attorney's office looked at this. It's important that we are able to go and touch the dam without owning the dam. And so the MOU is very well written, and it keeps the county from assuming liability. But it is critical that we find out the situation. My question was, it doesn't allow, the MOU doesn't allow any construction activities, but it seems like a gray area. It didn't specifically say non-destructive testing, but in some of the testings, you actually have to bore, or core, and I'm just wondering if the MOU allows for that, and prohibits all other activities. When you talk about testing, it's not just a visual sometimes.
That's true, but I think that testing pretty well covers that issue.
Okay, that's implied then, that they
Yeah.
could go ahead and core or drill?
If that's what they determine is
Okay.
necessary.
Very good, thank you. That's all I've got.
Great. We got a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum, the MOU between Graham County and Richard M. and Mary G. Claridge Living Trust.
And I'll second Supervisor Howard's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Bryce.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, we'll have Brian Douglas with the Health Department.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We are requesting permission to approve an updated Arizona Department of Environmental Quality Delegation Agreement. That ADEQ has made some changes to the current agreement. The main change is that we now have delegation to inspect sewage pumper trucks. In addition, there are new requirements for additional reporting data to the existing reports, and this basically, this increases our reporting to the state significantly. I would say up to maybe 3 times the information that we're submitting to them.
Questions or concerns?
Yeah, I don't know did any of your employees ask to be able to inspect sewage pumping trucks?
No.
Did they like have a lottery to see who would be able to do that, who would win that job?
Yeah.
And anyway, my comment is that this delegation of authority, ADEQ, it seems like even though it allows us, if we were to say, no, we're not going to accept your delegation of authority, we're not going to do it, you do it, then it would, we'd end up with 6 months, or I'm guessing like we do in some of the other, like the fire marshal, it takes 6 months to get a permit approved.
Correct.
And inspection, so it's by necessity we're accepting this. But the fact that they're ratcheting up and saying, you now will report more frequently and you have to do this and you have to do that, it's like all stick and no carrot. So I kind of hate to have people tell us, when to jump and how far, but that's the situation we're in. And so do we have the personnel who are trained to inspect the sewage pumping trucks and transport trucks?
Yes, Gavin Lawson.
Okay, very good. Well, that's I just was going to complain a little bit about the ADQ.
Supervisor Howard, do you have anything?
I mean, make a motion to approve the delegation agreement with Arizona Department of Environmental Quality.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we'll now turn the time over to Steve McGoy with Planning and Zoning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
You've been waiting for a while on this, but year and a half, 2 years ago, you said we want to update the ordinance, and now it's here, maybe. We have here an agreement with Civic Plus that we're hoping to approve for the purpose of, well, what they're going to start by looking at our ordinance. And there's a lot of places in our ordinance that we refer to Arizona Revised Statutes, and those rules change so fast that truthfully they should be done every couple of years. But they're going to go through it. They're an Arizona-based company, so they stay on top of what Arizona Revised Statute says. And their first job will be to go through our ordinance and compare it to Arizona Revised Statutes and come back with suggestions of what our ordinance should say compared to what it does say. And then I think once they get that all lined out, then they'll come back to us and say, what changes do you want to make to your ordinance? And we'll put that together. But this has been by our legal team and as far as an agreement, and we're looking for your okay to get started.
I am very excited about this to get going. It's been a long time coming. Appreciate your work on it, Steve, and I think it'll be such an improvement to our county and to our citizens of our county, especially to be able to have ordinances that are updated and preferably not conflicting with each other like we have a lot. So it's gonna be a great thing to do, and I'm very excited. And like I said, it's been a long time coming.
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that we do have the brain power to have done this ourselves, but it would be like reinventing the wheel. We don't relish going to consultants for every time we have something that's going to take a little time, but they have the expertise and they can do in a short amount of time what would take us maybe a year and a half to do and involve significant portions of manpower and time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this and a chance to redo our planning and zoning ordinances, and I would note that we've got, I think, 3 hearings today, and some of our redo or some of our efforts will help to answer a lot of those great, it'll prevent a number of hearings just because it's going to lay out what our plans are, what the zones and development and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it also.
Something I failed to mention, this will be an ongoing thing, and they will, as laws change, they will come back to us and tell us, hey, this changed, you need to fix it.
Yeah.
They will host this and keep it up to date, and anytime we want to make a change, one change at a time, we don't have to go change the whole document. We'll be able to duck back in and get something fixed. So this is an ongoing thing, and we'll have a contract with them for quite some time.
But we'll be paying for it. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it's gonna cost some money, but
Sure.
I think it's gonna be well worth it.
Understood.
What's the timeline, Steve, on this?
Until they get started, I don't think we know, but we're hoping to actually have their first rendition of this back to us in a couple of months.
Nice, thank you.
That'd be great.
I'll go ahead and, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the agreement with Civic Plus for service to update our Graham County ordinances.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your work on that. Now turn the time over to Julie Rodriguez with the Board of Supervisors.
Good morning. This is the 7th year I've come to request approval of the Graham County PSPRS, which is Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Pension Funding Policy. This is a House bill from 2018. It's a requirement that we do this every year. And this is the first year I've actually been happy to present it. We have done a tremendous job. Between 2019 and 2024, we've sent over $4.4 million extra to fund our PSPRS unfunded liability. And this is the first year that our actuarial report shows a change from a liability last year of over $555,000 to an asset this year of a very small, but an asset nonetheless of $14,000. So we've done a great job. We did have money earmarked to send this year, but we're gonna hold off on that and see how it goes. We're only gonna send our Prop 207 marijuana money after that. And Supervisor David was speaking to me this morning, and it is true that a lot of this relies on the market, and so we could be in a very different place next year, but I think we should bask in the glory of where we're at for right now.
What an accomplishment. Definitely. Thank you, Julie.
I was reading through it and didn't understand completely. Instead of 100% unfunded or 100% of our zero, in essence, zero unfunded liability, I think, aren't we gonna go to like a 7% for the next year, went from 100 to 92.7? Can you explain that?
So they moved the goalpost a few years ago. So they used to do an unfunded ratio based on one measurement, and they've changed it. So on the old measurement, we're actually at 100.1%. The new measurement deals more with the present value of the future benefit. And on that, they say we're only at 92.8. But because we have an asset, what they're saying is when we get to that point, we should be fine at this point. So it's a really difficult measurement. There's all kinds of calculations that go into it, but we're in a really good place on the deputy's retirement.
Okay, yeah, we just need to have Lucy stop holding the ball for the extra point, right? Okay, thank you very much. I'm appreciate, and it is remarkable to, because there's so many other municipalities and counties that have huge unfunded liabilities, and it's nice to be able to say that our efforts are to be, we can't be completely debt-free, but to be as debt-free as we can. So thank you. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the PSPRS pension funding policy as presented.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. At this time, we'll give the members of the board and our county manager an opportunity to present a brief summary of current events. I'll turn the time over to County Manager Welker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As part of your staff report, we provided all the fund balances for the end of March. I'll just note that these will be a lot of the fund balances we're looking at going into our budget season. And we're in a good place. We're, with the exception of the jail district operation fund balance, all the other fund balances are in the positive ahead of last year. So we're in a good spot starting there. Many of the department heads and or elected officials have begun meeting with finance to go over their budgets in a way to prepare for their budget presentations to the board, which is less than a month away. So we'll be getting into those discussions real heavy here real shortly. Just an update on some of the projects around the county. One big project we had was to replace the AC units at the probation building. That project is complete. We're working on the plans with ACE on a remodel of our Main Street building. So that ball's rolling. At the fairgrounds, our big landscaping project, we send out a request for proposals, and we're moving forward with the contract with Bowman. I'm working with the county attorney's office right now to get that contract, hopefully to present to the board at our next meeting on April 21st. We continue to work with Arizona Department of Corrections, with Dan Turley, to look at getting a specialized inmate paving crew out there to take the millings that we received off of Highway 191 and create parking lots. We have a meeting with him next week to go over that project and hopefully get a schedule together and get that started. Our Common Sense building, we poured that floor a few weeks ago, and our crew, Trey and his guys, have gone in there and put on a sealer on that concrete. So that building's back up and running for rent and for use. That was a really good project. We're excited about that. Our shade structure project, that's our piece of structure that burnt down a few years ago at the playground. We were able to salvage the main structural components of that, and that project has also begun. They have the footings poured, and they're just waiting for the rest of the building to come. We've also started the replacement of our Field 3 lights, and we awarded that contract. They've started that project too. A couple weeks ago, Peterbilt Construction finished the concrete aprons on all 3 of our transfer site locations. So we're happy to get that project done. One of our biggest projects we've been working on is the Motorola upgrade. We've been monitoring that very closely. We are just missing one component that Motorola has struggled to get, which is basically a consulate over in our dispatch center. That's supposed to be here any day. And as of right now, our deputies, our sheriff's office, and all the other agencies in the county, their digital radios are working. They can talk to each other, and they've been going around the whole county testing how they are working with the towers and amongst themselves. And from what we've heard back initially, it's been very good. The digital radios sound much better than the analog radios. They're a lot clearer. They get better reception in different places. So we're looking really good there. As soon as we get that last piece installed in dispatch, then everyone will be able to talk to dispatch, and we'll do a 30-day test period. So we're hoping by this time around next May, we'll be live on all of those. We still have a couple towers, our Ashers Tower and our Klondike Tower, that they're not up and going. We've been dealing with the owner of one of those towers and a person that has some equipment that we're working through that, but we have some other solutions that we're looking at. That's been a great project. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office again. They were able to get grant money for that, upwards of $3 million to do this project. So that was a huge grant, and that was because of their relationship with the state and the Border Patrol money. So I just want to thank Sheriff and Under Sheriff Jeff McCormick. They've done an outstanding job there. Out of the fairgrounds, we had Little League opening day over a week ago now. Just want to thank Trey and his crew. The grounds looked really good. Opening day went really well. We have mounds built out there now, but we've also purchased some portable mounds with Little League, and those will be coming here shortly, and we'll install those out there. That'll help us as we transfer back and forth between Little League and soccer on those multi-use fields. We had a little bump in our inmates. We were getting 7 to 10 last week. I got a report this morning, and we're down to 5, so we'll continue to work with and struggle with DOC to try to get our inmate counts up. Our highway department's been working over on Watson Lane, low water crossing. They'll be pouring that concrete apron here real quick, and then we'll have that road all done. Our crews have been all around the county prepping for chip seal season. They've been out in Fort Thomas and Central Road and that west side of town. We have 24 miles of chip seal that we'll be doing here the first week of May. And one of those projects is Power Line Road. That's our big project for this year. So we'll be chip sealing that. Our guys have been out there working on the drainage and doing a great job. We appreciate that. And finally, just report on our Gila River Linear Park and Trail project. That's funds that we received from ADOT to design it, and then some congressionally directed spending funds to eventually build it. We have a site visit meeting on April 16th to further that project with Jacobs, the designer that ADOT shows on there. We continue to work on the design plan for Tally Wash. We have 30% plans that we're working through and developing a design plan to finish those designs out. We've also spent some time on our SMART grant project, which is 8th Street and 1st Avenue. We've been working through a lot of right-of-way on that. And as we go through that project and many others, we continue to kind of struggle with a little bit, finding that we don't have sufficient right-of-way on a lot of these projects, and we're trying to work through those. So with that, we've got a lot of other things to talk about with the board during our work session after the meeting. So that's my report for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Howard?
Yeah, I'll be real brief because of time restrictions. I attended the Gila Valley Irrigation District water meeting, as I do try to every month to stay up on our water issues and to keep them informed of what's going on around the state. Also, I attended several ribbon cuttings. It was like a ribbon cutting the last 2 weeks. The bowling alley, the search and rescue was another one I was very happy to attend. again, I will always commend Search and Rescue and, and give information to the public about what they do for us in this community and what they provide for the sheriff. I really think that they're a group that's, the men and women are really underappreciated in this county, and I want to keep advocating for the importance of them. Also, I attended the hospital ribbon cutting. We finally have a air ambulance service, a helicopter service that's here permanently stationed. That means we will always have a helicopter sitting at the hospital. They'll have two, so that's another great asset to our community. And I also attended to the Women's Caring Heart sober living home, women's sober living home. That will be, I believe they cut the ribbon on it, but it won't be open until they get a state license here shortly. So I expect it next 2 or 3 weeks it should be open and up and running, which is an absolute accomplishment. And I want to thank the attorney's office for sending that grant to them for that amount of money. I can't remember what it was, but it was a substantial amount.
160,000.
Yeah, 160,000. It was so thank you very much for that. Also, I attended on Friday a GOP meeting in Thatcher and had the opportunity to speak with one of our legislators about some more important water issues that's coming down the pike we're trying to solve. So, and then lastly, I attended Jackie Hosington's funeral out in Klondike on Friday, which was, she was a pillar of this community and will be greatly missed, and she was much loved. I was very astonished at how many people took the drive out there on the day. It was quite a scene. It reminded me of, it was so serene and where she's laid to rest. A big tribute to her. So I would just like y'all to acknowledge that, and that'd be the end of my report.
Thank you. Vice Chairman David?
Thank you, Chairman. It's been 3 weeks since we reported, so I've got a few things. On the 18th, attended a webinar, and it was where they were explaining why we're not going to get the $1.2 million for the fairgrounds water system. They're going to, because Congress, they passed a continuing resolution for the budget, but that didn't include the appropriations from the individual congressional leaders. And so we have to reapply and have the 24th for deadline. Then a little later, after that, surface water protection update with ADEQ to make sure that they're not passing so much legislation that we will never be able to comply. Then Emily Riddle had a training with us for the health department. They call it Proyecto Juntos, or Together Project. It's for mental health collaboration. Following day, local committee to end homelessness meeting, and then there was a travel to Phoenix for both Eastern Counties Organization and small counties, County Supervisors Association meetings. With the following morning had another meeting attended by our board. Coalition of Arizona and New Mexico Counties held their meeting and they are a coalition for individual property rights for farmers, ranchers, citizens. They basically are monitoring everything and at times litigate against the unlimited impacts of the Mexican gray wolf, some of the EPA and BLM and U.S. Forest Service rulings, and so they're good friends, and I'm pleased to be a member of that group. Search and rescue ribbon cutting. Thank you, Ronnie. Congratulations, it was wonderful. The following week, we had a couple of Anna Elder and also a Valerie Cook retirement, and they will both be missed. There was a First Things First meeting, advocating for children and for care of children and education and personal care. And the following, then I went to health department again, the trauma informed response training, where they talked about PTSD and how to help both the first responders as well as healthcare workers and members of our community, and including grief. Then we're organizing a legislative tour, which will be coming through in the first part of May. Anywhere from 20 to 30 members of the Arizona House and Senate will be coming through to look at the mines. They'll be stopping in Thatcher on the 2nd, and also EAC is going to host them. So that'll be a good chance to meet and greet and advocate for local issues. Gila Valley Veterans Services had a meeting. They are looking at a stand-down day and a dinner for their honor guard, and then there was a Supervisor Howard and I. There's Arizona is the number 2 in the state, in the country. Number 2 has the most per capita Medicaid funding, meaning people with low income. We're number 2 in the state, and we're seeing while the federal government provides 90% of the funding currently, they're looking at some significant cuts. And then when they cut, that means that the state either has to cut or has to come up with the funding. And then the state, since we're partners with the state, then we end up being involved in that. And we've seen this year Graham County is number 2 in the state, speaking of number 2. And we have a phenomenal number of people who are currently on Medicaid and long-term care, which I think our contribution, did it increase to 170,000, 173,000, or is it 173,000? Anyway, it seemed like it more than doubled this year, and we're scratching our head and trying to figure out why. And that's why I was on that webinar to try to get some of the data and see if we're being treated, if their calculations are wrong, because we've been historically we've been in the middle and not certainly leading, and so that's a concern and something that we may not have any control over, because we don't write the rules as far as who qualifies and who receives the benefits. So that's my report. And anyway, I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to represent the county and the taxpayers and advocate for our people and try to get good services like we all do that are affordable and make our little corner of the state a better place to live. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I won't repeat some of the same things I went to that the other supervisors went to, but I did have the opportunity to attend Safford City Council meeting on the 24th. Manager Welker and I attended a managers meeting at Town of Thatcher on the 2nd. And I did have the opportunity to attend the search and rescue groundbreaking. And just want to tell Mr. Gillespie and Mr. McGoy what a great accomplishment. You guys do an amazing job for our community. We appreciate you. My dad was a volunteer fireman for 28 years, so I know the dedication and hard work that you guys put into that, and just want to publicly thank you for all that you do there. We'll now close our regular meeting. We will go into a public hearing. I just want to remind everybody that's turned in participation forms that you will have 3 minutes to speak, and we ask that you respect that. There is a timer up here, and we will turn the time over to Steve McGoy from Planning and Zoning.
Good morning again. I've got 4 rezone requests to go over, and we'll get started with rezone 926-25. This is on parcel 105-45087A. It is 1.7 acres, and the owner, Mr. Green, the applicant, wants to build a second home on that 1.7 acres. It does not allow for it in the 1 acre zoning. So he had the option of building a mother-in-law's quarters, but he wants something larger, so he's gonna split it with your permission. He's asking for half-acre zoning, which is what we require when we have city water but no city sewer. This got a favorable recommendation from our commission, and Mr. Green is here to answer any questions or present if he'd like. But it got a unanimous decision to pass it to you with favorable recommendation. If you have any questions, I can try to answer.
So it does have city water, but
Correct.
not city sewer?
Right, it'll be on septic.
Okay.
No opposition to this?
No opposition, nothing from any of the neighbors.
I was looking at a map, and can you pull out just a little bit on your map there? And Steve, you know the area very well, and I've been out to Mr. Green's home to pay a bill. And by the way, no one will do a better septic system than Mr. Green will. But my question is, as far as the neighborhood, are there other 1/2 acre lots in that neighborhood, or are we creating a precedent by zoning or allowing the zoning to a 1/2 acre?
There are quite a few less than 1 acre zonings. We just did one for, you got a,
You can zoom back in if you need to.
if you remember Larry Waters or Walters was here just a few months ago. We did one right here probably, so that he and his sons could have houses together there. I know a lot of people in Central like to think that they're all on 1 acre and they want it to stay that way, but the truth is there's quite a few less than 1 acre lots. And this is gonna make I could have given him an administrative adjustment to do 2.9 acre lots had he had 1.8 acres. He only had 1.7, so that wasn't an option. That's how close he came, though, to being able to do this without going through this process.
Very good. And there's no problem with access. I didn't see on his proposal where he would put it, but I have a pretty good idea. Because he has a workshop, it would be on the other side of the workshop.
Right.
So there's no egress, ingress, or other problems.
No, he has good egress. He plans to build on the east end of his property.
You know, if this was incorporated, the towns and cities are now by state statute are required to allow the mother-in-law quarters, and I don't know, I don't think the counties are exempt from that currently, to my recollection. So. You know, if this could be a non-issue if it were incorporated. So I'm not, especially if it's at least a 1/2 acre. I don't have much of a problem with that, and there's no opposition. So, Mr. Green's been such a nice fellow all these years. I doubt anyone would speak up against him. And anyone who wants to put his mother-in-law next to their house, I guess that would be something that's commendable. So,
I think actually he is the mother-in-law. He's going to let his kids live in the front house. He's going to build him a smaller one in the back. And this doesn't work for him on that. If that mother-in-law were to become law, he wants something bigger than the 10,000 that allows.
1,000.
Okay, yeah, he's indicated around 1,200 square foot.
1,000, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all my comments.
Supervisor Howard?
I have nothing, as long as there's no opposition, yep.
Mr. Green, would you like the opportunity to speak?
If I need to, if I don't, then.
I think you're okay. We get a motion?
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the rezoning of 926-25. Is that right? APN 105-45-087A, 1.7 acres. Request to rezone from general land use to RR, single-family residential. Site address is 2725 North Shiplet Avenue, Central Arizona.
And it'll show for future reference, since it's not, doesn't list a half acre, but the paperwork will show it's a half acre split, so that for future, someone doesn't come in and ask for less than a half an acre. Is that correct?
Yeah, the RR zoning.
I'm not talking Mr. Green asking for less than half. I'm
Well,
talking about neighbors.
This zoning would allow him to create 3 parcels if he wanted to. He hasn't said that he wishes to, but in the future, that could turn into a 3rd lot there with this zoning. I don't think he has any intentions of that, but he does have enough room to build 3 half-acre lots there.
Okay.
Can I get a second?
Oh, you need a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, and Jeff thanks you. Second one is rezone 927-25. Parcel number is 106-28081. This is a little over 12 acres, and the request is made by Donovan Kerr to rezone from SD to AR 3-acre minimum. He's north of the subdivision out by the monastery, which has a similar zoning, and we went through it with one of the other neighbors, asked for 2 acres. We told him, no, you can have 3, so he came back and asked for 3, and we gave it to him. This neighbor is next door and would like the same. He got a favorable recommendation, a unanimous one. There's no opposition from anyone in the neighborhood. And he came all the way out from, I don't remember where, Massachusetts or somewhere for the last meeting, but he couldn't make them both, so. But there's unanimous decision to send it to you with a favorable recommendation.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just, ideally, there would be some minimal infrastructure investment, and the direction we're going is we're just allowing splits without any investment in infrastructure for the future of the area. So we're in essence, we're back to, I guess it could be described as no better than the wildcatting, although there's a little more effort and more communication. But 3 acres is still a reasonable size for a home as far as density out in the middle of nowhere. But it sure would be nice in the future if we could leverage a little more improvements. We've got dirt roads, we've got dust, and it just would be nice, especially in what they want to have a nice area, to have more than just dirt roads. And so I reluctantly, since we've got a precedent, we've already done it. Someone said, hey, you already did this, we want one too. We're kind of in a corner. So, but that's my those are my comments.
Yeah, I agree on everything Paul said there. We've set that precedent, so I don't know how we not allow this one as well. So, anyway.
Just for clarification, I don't know how much improvements they've made to those roads. I know they sat down with our engineer, and they did make some improvements to the drainage type area out there on those roads. And they are of the persuasion that nature knows best and that they don't need to mess with a lot of that. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think actually they're going to have a pretty good product out there.
Okay. And your recommendation?
I think we need to go ahead and let him have that. He already has himself and one of his children that plan to build on 2 of those 4 lots that he will create.
Okay, Chairman, I guess the public,
There's nobody here from
no
the
one here,
public.
okay. I'd go ahead and then, if it's in order, make a motion that we grant this request for rezoning 927-25, that's the rezoning request for parcel number 10628-081 to AR3 for 3-acre parcels.
I'll go ahead and second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
I will speak less on this third one because the applicant is here and knows better what he wants to do than I do. This request rezone 930-25, parcel numbers are 107-52-001, which is 22.4 acres, and adjoining parcel 107-48-001, which is very small, 0.9 acres. 107-48-002A is 0.5 acres. And then the larger portion of that, 107-49-002C, is a little over 200 acres for a total of almost 225 acres. Peter Vlasis wants to rezone this from general land use to CM, and doesn't know really for sure how he wants to use it yet, but I'll let him talk to you. And the commission gave a unanimous favorable recommendation.
Hi, I'm Peter Velasquez. I live at 1612 South 12th Avenue in Safford. This came about because this little strip right here was once a barn, I was told, and it burned down and they never farmed it. And through the hot ground rearranging of the fields, they've been irrigating through that and not been able to plant that. So I went down to the irrigation district has done the court proceedings on the hot ground, and they ended up taking about 20 acres right here on the front and then some on the back to make this field continuous again. So I have, there's gonna be at least 20 acres of frontage right here that's not ever gonna get farmed again. There's no water for it. If you zoom out just a little bit, there's really no commercial land from Circle K all the way out this way. And my thinking was if we can have 3 dollar stores on 191 South, that maybe the people in Solomon and Sanchez would appreciate something out that way. I've talked to ADOT, and they said because I have enough land there that we can do a big turn off of the highway instead of having anything face the highway. And that's why I decided just to rezone the whole thing so we can get that egress and make it safe around this curve right here. Kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Questions, concerns from
Yeah,
the board?
can you show the parcel boundary one more time?
Yeah, zoom out farther. Oh yeah, there's several parcels in there, but it goes all the way up to the river.
And then some of it is under active cultivation?
Yes,
Right
but
there it is.
it'll never be, the northern part of it is all in the flood zone, so it'll never be houses.
Okay. Well, and we don't have the leverage yet, and we haven't exercised our rights to try to like some counties, Yuma County, they just won't rezone agricultural. They've all decided, I guess it's almost like collusion, that they're not going to rezone any agricultural because they want to preserve farmland. But it seems like I'm all for commercial, especially when you got frontage. But I hate to see, and it's happening everywhere, people going and taking farmland and turning it into.
I'm assuming, when we go forward, if somebody comes to me to do something, we'll come back and draw the boundary lines or reshape and survey. Because like this field's a little bit higher than that field, and I don't have the exact drawings that the irrigation did, but I've lost property on every piece of farmland I have. I've lost property, farm property.
Well, I'll just express a preference. I'm in favor of the rezone. I'll express a preference that preserve the agricultural land as long as you possibly can. And that's all.
Yeah, because this up here is all flood zones, so there's really
Sure. Okay.
farm it
Thank
until
you,
they
Chairman.
take the water away from us.
Thank you, Chairman.
How much of that was hot ground, Peter?
It took over 20, it took 20 acres here, and then I think they told me there was 5 or 10 more acres off the end of here to, and it doesn't look right, but I let them do it.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I trust that they did it right, and
Sure,
it's all legal, but
sure.
I just signed the papers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Paul on taking our ag ground and building houses on them, but that's my farming blood in me. I hate to see it happen, but it's inevitable, it looks like. But I don't have a problem with this rezoning.
And I would just note, Mr. Vlasis serves on our Planning and Zoning Commission, and we are doing our very best not to give any kind of preferential treatment, but he's been a good citizen, and he's been before us before, and reliable, and I don't have a problem being impartial with Peter.
I did have there were 2 ladies here from Solomon that asked, and they were concerned that we were gonna do something on Main Street. And I said, no, it's north of there, and I'm sure they're retired there. And they were both excited that they could go across the street and get some milk if they needed it. So if that happens, I think it will help this community of those people where they don't have to drive all the way to town.
They got a little food desert except for Circle K, so.
Yeah, and even that's, 2 or 3 miles down the road.
Right. Okay.
I think it's a great idea. I think Solomon's a neat little community, and it'd be good for them to have something like that there.
Yep.
So, all right, thank you, Peter.
Go ahead. Ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion.
Make a motion on the rezone 930-25, 107-52-00, 122.4 acres, 107-48-001.9 acres, 107-48-002A, 0.5 acres, 107-49-002C, 200.7 acres. Total acreage is 224, rezoned from general land use to commercial manufacturing zone. Commercial manufacturing, excuse me.
And I'll second Supervisor Howard's motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. The final one will be rezone 931-25, parcel number 10535-180. It's 2.5 acres. Request is made by Tom Palmer to rezone from A, general land use, to residential site built. The applicant would like to have zoning that allows smaller lot sizes for future development. This is along the east side of Alder Lane, just south of the railroad tracks. There was some opposition. 3 or 4 people spoke in opposition, and the commission gave a unfavorable recommendation by a vote of 3-2. And I'd like Tom to come up and tell you his intentions, because he left this to me. He was on spring break and he left it to me to explain, and I didn't have the explanation. So, Tom, if you would, come up and tell the board what you really want to do. I failed you.
Thank you, members of the board and Mr. Welker. Yeah, the background to it, and I was gone for planning and zoning meeting, I apologize for that, but background is I've been looking for a little lot for my daughter to build a house for quite a while, and I don't know if y'all have done that lately, but it's really, really hard to find anything affordable, and something that's not an acre on unimproved ground, which there's a lot of those are available, most of them on pretty rough dirt roads, and then you got to maintain a nasty, dusty acre somewhere, and a lot of that's available. I'm a surveyor on my weekends, and so when I surveyed this for Mr. Howard, I asked him if I could purchase it from him with the intent of splitting off a little piece of that and letting my daughter build a house and then probably splitting the rest off. As I started to draw that up, half acres made a lot of sense. It's 2.5 acres. I get 5 splits in the county. That would be half acres, but it's a weird piece on the north and the south. And so some of those splits fell slightly under a half an acre. And I thought, well, I'll ask for a rezone to 1/4 acres. And then it gives me a little flexibility as I split that up. So that's the background and the intent. I understand there was some concerns. First of all, that I would slam 10 homes in there. A, I can't do that legally, and B, I have no intent of slamming 10 homes in there. I would split at most 5 ways, depending on, I've got a coworker that is in the same boat as my daughter, trying to find something affordable to build on, and has approached me, and I said, well, we'll see how this goes. There may or may not be something available. I understand that flooding was an issue, and this area is in a floodplain, and it's comes clear from the mountain. It's Ash Creek. It comes down, it hits the highway, and it hits the railroad, and it floods. And I wouldn't either cause it or fix it for the general area. It's in a flood zone, and obviously I would have to make sure I don't make it worse for anyone around me, and I would have to make sure that anything I did was elevated above the floodplain. I'm an engineer in my day job, and I am very aware of all the flooding issues in the valley. I've sat on all the NRCS stuff, and they've done studies of this exact area, and there's no question it floods, and that is a concern for absolutely everybody. Traffic was brought up. I see things a little differently. I personally have surveyed over 200 acres within a mile of here that all feed onto Alder Lane. The future, there will be a lot of traffic everywhere in this county. It's already getting there, and it's getting worse by the day, and we all have to plan for it. But I don't feel 5 homes on a paved road is adding a lot of traffic that we need to worry about near as much as a couple 100 acres on dirt that will end up wildcatted out that causes a whole lot bigger issues. So when I see water lines, sewer lines, and asphalt, I think we got to take advantage of that, and that's where homes should go, not out in the areas that have no infrastructure. And so that's my request. I very respectfully understand that nobody wants new development in their neighborhood, especially when they've been looking at cotton fields their whole life. So I understand that. And I'm asking for rezone. Obviously, if it doesn't pass, then I'll split it, and there will be 2 bigger, more expensive lots that'll get sold off, and my daughter will keep looking for somewhere inexpensive to build somewhere in the valley, and hopefully that can happen. So that's my background, and open any questions y'all might have for me.
Tom, is that hot ground?
I don't believe so. It's been farmed up until last couple of years by the Howards. I know he's trying to sell off the field behind it, and so I don't know if it'll be farmed or if it'll be something else.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Palmer, question, if you split it into 2.5 acre lots, then those lots could then be split again, right?
It's a total of 2.5 acres. So if
Okay.
I were to split it in its current state, it's 2.5 acres. I'd split it into 1.25 acres each, and I'd go look for something else.
But then could the next owner split it?
It could
again?
not in its current condition because it's acre minimums there.
Okay. My next question is that I don't know that everyone is privy, but we received a couple of maps in showing different variations to explain your position, and one shows the 5 parcels, each within some of them right at half acre. The largest is 0.62 acres to the north, and the rest of them are just under half an acre. You know, these 3 different scenarios where you've shown half an acre, and I've looked at the maps, and up both to the north and the south there are parcels that are half an acre. People have homes on half acres both to the north and the south, not in adjacent, but in the vicinity. And so is that something that you're willing to do so that you don't have any more than 5 half-acre lots?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can configure it so it's a half acre minimum. it made a little more sense, as you said, to do on one of my things, it was like a 0.65 acres somewhere, which means another one is 0.45 or something. And so it made sense to drop slightly below. But if the board would rather say half acre minimum, it would serve my purpose. I'd make them all a half acre minimum, and the north and the south one would be a little funky shaped, but it would work, certainly. I do understand the fear that, okay, I do 5 half acre lots, and then if the zoning allows it, each of those half acres could further be split into. So if the restriction were put there that it's half acre minimum or 5 splits minimum or maximum or any of that, I would totally be okay with that. The intent is 5 lots that are somewhere around a half an acre. And so whatever.
And you know, as we're not deliberating, but just I'm always trying to balance what is the good of the neighborhood.
Sure.
You know, what are the aesthetics? What's the current situation? Ideally, you know, it would be nice if, like when I used to drive down McKellips Road and you know, big homes on 4 or 5 acre lots, or orange trees, things like that. But that's not I don't think that's going to be our future. But I don't want to have such a high density that it doesn't match what's in the neighborhood. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm going to listen very carefully to the people who are opposed to this and haven't made a decision yet. But you're willing to cap and to make sure that there are not going to be 10 homes in this area. Okay.
All right, if there's no more questions for Mr. Palmer, we have some citizens from the public that would like to speak. First, Mr. Peter Hansen.
My name's Peter Hansen. I live at 650 South Alder Lane with my wife, Catherine. I'm not a good public speaker at all, so I asked permission to go ahead and just read what I have written on my phone,
Sure,
if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
As I said, we reside at 650 South Alder Lane, directly across from a proposed map change. We've lived at this home for nearly 20 years, and we contest this map change. If approved, there could be, according to the proposed 10,000 minimum square foot section, many single-family homes built on a 2.5 acre tract of the farm ground at the west end of the main tract of property there. I've been told by the Graham County Deputy Engineer while putting a couple of homes in that area could result in minimal flood impact. Putting more homes in the same area would require a lot more engineering and a lot more issues to be dealt with. This would include water drainage from the presently irrigated acreage of cotton field attached east of this site, drainage and erosion protection for the multiple structures on the site itself, and drainage issues from the runoff from Alder Lane. Presently, there's only a single drain for the property there at the northwest corner. The site has to be lifted to the level above ground to satisfy the county for being in an 8.0 floodplain. We had to do this for a solar array built on our property. This requirement is 3 feet, and after talking to Graham County Planning and Zoning, I was told that any structures placed at that proposed zone change would have to be a foot above the crown of the pavement of Alder Lane. This would place that whole property at a higher level than other property owners on Alder, including ours, and if any mistakes were made in drainage or maintenance of such drainage, this could easily change the direction of the water flow back west across Alder Lane and place our property and other properties on Alder in greater jeopardy from flooding than they already are. Historically, the proposed area has always helped with overflows from excessive rain by diverting water and soaking in excess moisture, as is presently much lower than the main road and has been for the 20 years that we've lived there, and more likely a very long time. If numerous homes were built in the proposed area, it would also add an additional amount of traffic and problems that are already present on South Alder Lane. There are only about a dozen homes on the entire street length of South Alder Lane, and we are already plagued from a number of speeders from the Alder Heights Addition area that totally ignore the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And there are up to 65 homes there and more in the Alder Heights area, and many of them use South Alder as their main route of travel. I've also talked to Graham County Planning and Zoning recently, and after seeing a Photoshop of my property from Graham County records, the issue was raised about the east boundary of our property line, which does in fact extend across Alder Lane and into the land on the east side of the road, but what degree is uncertain. And I was told by Graham County Planning and Zoning that it will be checked into by Graham County staff, but has not been completed yet to my knowledge. I do know, however, we are paying taxes on that land, a 208-foot strip centrally located in front of the area asked to be rezoned, and a rough estimate appears to be approximately 15 feet east from the road edge. The last time construction was done on Alder Lane across from our home, the sewer line was put in for the Alder Heights area, and a T was put in the main sewer line for our home, and the road repair from that construction was left in a manner that left a deep depression in the road that jolted our home every time a big rig came through for work in the South Alder area. This resulted in the destruction of our plumbing and cracking several walls inside the home to the tune of $11,000. How much more damage to our home could occur from construction there is uncertain. I do realize Graham County is in need of more housing, but we do not believe this is an appropriate area to do so. We believe the many issues that will be of concern placing homes in this area should not be approved, but looked at very cautiously and completely if granted as written. And on a side note, I've stood several hours in front of the ditch in front of my house, the actual ditch that runs the water, when Ash Creek almost overflooded there when several years after we had the fires on the mountains. I stood out there for several hours at a time, sitting there with a shovel in my hand in the pouring rain, trying to make sure that that creek or that ditch didn't overflow onto Alder Lane. It did anyway. It overflowed all the way down through there. And if you remember too, I wasn't living there, but in the flood of '83, there was at least 2 feet of water that came straight down Alder Lane onto the highway and just flooded everything out. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well said, very well said, and well constructed. I appreciate your insights, and nothing like being on the ground to be able to provide.
I've lived there for 20 years already. That's my opinion.
Great. Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Jody Clayman. Did I say that right? Yes.
I'm Jody Clayman. I live on 592 South Alder Lane. I'll give Pete some of my time. I won't take the full 3 minutes. But I oppose it. I oppose having that many. I mean, as it's written, it says 10,000 square foot lots. And having that many homes built, you know, we can go on the word, but if it's written at 10,000 square foot lots, that is the law. And so that could happen in the future. And I oppose it. I don't think it's right. We don't have the infrastructure there, especially on the road, to allow that to happen. And the access points of getting there is owned by other people. And so I'm concerned about that, and having, it's already, you know, we've talked about the traffic, but from what I understand is that's an easement. The road is an easement off of my property, and it's a 16-foot easement, that's it. And so you're bringing all these other individuals and all this other traffic onto there is a big concern for me and my family that lives right there. And then you add all the traffic, like he's talked about, from Alder Heights, and trying to get on to Highway 70 right now sometimes is ridiculous. So I just want it to be known that we oppose this action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Scott Alder.
Scott Alder. Pete said he'd lived there for 20 years. I've lived there for going on 72. I've lived on Alder Lane all my life. And I used to play out in the middle of the street when I was a kid because there wasn't any traffic there. Right now, the average speed up and down Alder Lane is about 45 to 55 miles an hour. I've asked the local law enforcement people to patrol that, and I can't get anywhere. They might drive up and down, but they don't sit where they can ride traffic. And I've already talked to the sheriff about it, so he knows I'm stepping on his toes a little. Congestion on Alder Lane, the traffic is thick up through there now. And originally, like Jody said, the application was for 10,000 square feet. That was what was presented to the Board of Supervisors, to the Planning and Zoning. That puts about 10 houses up through there. You plant 10 houses in there to get the sewer and the water and all the utilities into the middle of the street where the utilities are, why it's not going to be much of a street left. The flooding, I've seen all of those floods, been up and down through there. I don't know that there's anybody here that can verify that any more than I can. And furthermore, I have a survey right here was surveyed for my property. It was mentioned in the Planning and Zoning meeting that a letter was read by Mr. McGoy that he had surveyed it. I have my own survey. I paid dearly for that survey, and I don't know where his access is going to come off of because I own east side of Alder Lane. I talked to Mr. Bryce, and he told me there's a 16-foot easement down through there for Alder Lane, and I own on the other side of it. So I don't know where his access is going to be because he's not crossing my property. And so with that, I'll shut up. I got a lot more to say, but.
Thank you, Mr. Alder.
I had do you mind asking Mr. Alder come back up? I just had a question for him.
Sure.
You can answer from down there. I mean, I don't think our.
Speak up loud, Paul, I can't hear very good.
All right. Thank you, Scott. My question is, I would, the 10 houses is unacceptable to me. Having 10 houses is unacceptable. And if the offer is 5, does that make it any more palatable?
No.
Even though there are half-acre lots, half-acre residences?
Not to me, that's me personally.
Okay, yes, sir.
But the simple fact is you drive down North Alder, well, it's all South Alder Lane. The whole thing is South Alder Lane. You go north of the highway, drive down there, they're sitting on houses down there that are just so close together that the neighbors snoring wakes the other people up. They're so close. That would be your 10,000 square feet, I imagine.
Yep.
Still yet, it's so congested up through there right now that with all the traffic that goes in and out of there, I can't hardly get out on the road. I have to, as it is. And anyway, it's just a lot of traffic, and
sure.
And it's not a lane that can handle all that. It's
No.
a hard time right now.
Well, not only that, but it's skewed with the highway, so you've got an extra distance to cross, and that makes it a less than, it makes the safety of it decreases the safety because of the length of time and the width to get across a skewed intersection. So, yep, it is. Thank you very, very much.
The other proposal across the highway even makes it worse.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
So just to clarify, you would be opposed to half-acre lots?
Yep, I am.
Okay.
This is always an issue. Every planning and zoning and these splits and these rezonings is always an issue. You know, we're getting farm ground took out. That concerns me. But On the other hand, I realize this is a high-growth area. We need housing. I think we have a problem on Alder Lane with traffic. We've got to do something with traffic. There was some suggestions made to me just this morning that I think was a very good suggestion. I will take it up later in our work session. But the Alder Heights area is growing tremendously. I understand that that property west of Alder Heights has been sold and plans future development as well. The traffic through all of this is going to have to be watched. Traffic through this whole valley is just been, is getting to a point that it's unsustainable almost, and we've got to work on that. Alder Lane, we've got other plans across to the south, or to the north of Alder Lane, for development. This area down there is growing tremendously. I certainly don't want to see 10 houses in there. And I did watch the planning and zoning meeting when we had it earlier. I wish the planning and zoning would have let Tom come and speak to them and table it for the last meeting, where the planning and zoning commission could have heard Tom's proposal by itself. I think it would have made a difference to them, assuring them that it probably wouldn't be 10 houses if they would go 5 houses. Also, Mr. Hanson, I seen you on that meeting saying a couple big houses wouldn't really bother you a whole lot, if I recall your statement.
A couple wouldn't bother me nearly as much
It's 10.
10 or even 5.
Exactly.
Because of the fact of the flooding issue and raising that level up higher, he wants to raise, he has to by
Right.
the county ordinance, and he has to raise it up higher.
Right, right.
Any problems they have at all with the drainage to that, because all the water going down there is gonna push that water over at the Scott's property, her property, and my property.
Right.
All of it, because
Right.
it runs 2.5 acres, from the last house, 2.5 acres, all the way down to the highway. And
Yeah.
directly in front of my house, and I already know in front of my house, and I've already had so much damage to my house, just with the bit of construction that they've done over there, by putting in that T and having that great big loop into that road, and getting my house just hit every day with that. I can imagine them putting that sewer over there, putting 2 or 3 or 4 more, or even 5 more connections to go over there, all at the same time. When they put that sewer line in there, by the way, when they didn't compact it right, all that, and that whole side, that whole east side of that road, it's all got great big cracks in it, all the way down from lowering after all the property settled. So it's a disaster down through there already. I don't think we need a bunch of more houses down through there.
Yeah, there's definitely some infrastructure problems all over this place, and especially in there. And then on the other hand, I always look at when somebody buys property, they buy it with an intent to do something with it. And then you have us here telling them what they can do and what they can't. And private property rights, to me, is critical for anybody to be able to do and to improve their dream, so to speak. I've struggled with this decision all the time about private property all over this valley. There's never a place that somebody feels like they want growth. They want growth, but not in front of their house. That's the problem with all of these zoning issues that we face. And it's a tough decision. I empathize with their complaints. I see what he's trying to do. So this is a tough decision. I would have to say that I would not go to 10,000 square foot lots, half-acre lots. I could probably go with, because in the back of my mind, Tom mentioned in his letter and his statement that he's wanting to buy a lot for his daughter and one of her friends or acquaintance, or whatever it was you said. So there's 2 houses, I think, that'll probably be built there in the future, but I don't see 5 going in there anytime soon. Hopefully with this other development in Pima area, some of these issues will be solved with this flooding. I don't know. That's such a convoluted area there. It goes county, it goes Pima, and back to county. It's kind of a strange area there. So with that being said, I would probably have to say I will say that I would approve the 5 lots with that stipulation.
I've got a question for both Dustin and or Steve, and that is the current zoning does allow the RSB, that allows for 10,000 acre lots, is that correct?
10,000 square.
Or is that R10, 10,000 square foot? Is that?
I think RSB can go clear down to 6,000, but he requested 10,000.
So, but we could.
There would be a stipulation already.
By stipulation, we could require half acre or within a, you know, he's got a couple maps that shows 0.46, but no more than a composite, no more than in essence 5 1/2 acre lots. We would have to do that by stipulation, or would he have to come back and go through the process again?
You could do it by stipulation. You're not adversely affecting the neighbors worse than what he asked for by giving him less than he asked for.
And what would do we have, and it shows my you know, somewhat shows my ignorance, but what would the ideal zoning request be for if we wanted only half acre lots or larger?
Well, in site built only, what we consider a buildable half acre is 20,000 square feet, which is what we would.
And
if you said half acre, we would probably put it at 20,000 square feet. I don't know if Tom would like to address anything he heard.
But that would be an RSB with a 20 with a R20.
You could do that, or you could give him the 10,000, but tell him you can only have, you know, 1 or 2 of those lots be small and the rest of them have to be big. You can do whatever you want.
Well, what I'm trying to do is
below 10,000.
What I'd like to do is if we do end up voting to allow half acre lots, what I don't want is to have a zoning where someone comes in the future and says, hey, this would allow for 10,000 square foot lots. We want one just like it. And I want to avoid that. So whether by stipulation, which to me isn't strong enough, or with a different zoning classification to be able to say, you know, so someone doesn't say me too, and end up with 10 in a 2.5 acre.
Well, when they put these into GIS, which is kind of now the official record, there's a minimum put in there that's based on the application or the board minutes. And if it's per board minutes, then there's a note put in there what date this happened and by who and what was said. So it would come right out of Hannah's notes and would be copied and pasted in the zoning.
Right. But that's still, in 20 years, someone who doesn't have access to the notes could say, hey, here's this zone.
It will be on the website. Everyone will have access to those notes.
Okay. Well, I just don't want to facilitate you know, a bunch of townhomes size lots.
So to make that clear, we're protecting it. If we put a stipulation in there, it could not be overturned. If we put that stipulation in, somebody couldn't come by, like Paul said, and say, hey.
Not without another meeting like this.
Not without another meeting.
It'd have to
like
go
that.
back through the whole process to change that.
Well, my thought is I'm trying to, so to speak, split the baby here. I know these guys don't want it. I know he needs it. Kind of compromising on the deal. That's my thought. You know, we're given and given on both sides.
So I have a concern about the access that Mr. Alder brought up.
And I know engineering was looking at it. I don't know if they've come to any conclusions. Eric was working on it. Do you know, Michael? If Yeah, I looked myself thinking that there would be an easement or right-of-way granted to put that sewer system in, and I couldn't even find that. And that's been so recently that I can't imagine it doesn't exist, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Well, and to address the flooding, I know Michael Bryce was at the last meeting, and we do have, the requirement is that the housing cannot add any more than what's currently sheet flowing across that property, as far as I understand. So they can't add an inch of flood water to the downstream, so that they would have to, well, and flood is the wrong word to say. Regular just drainage flow under normal conditions, they would not be able to construct a residence without retaining the additional flow or having some other drainage structure that would convey that, so that the downstream users are not impacted under normal flow conditions. Under high flow conditions, under flooding, then of course they aren't responsible to retain the flooding, but certainly not to make a 1 inch difference in the, and I know that's kind of abstract, but a 1 inch difference in the downstream of that parcel flood increase or drainage increase. Is that correct?
Basically, I don't pretend to know and understand all that, but I know that Michael and his department will look at that, and Tom will have to provide some documentation as to each lot as it gets built is going to have to prove that they're able to do that, to get up high enough to be out of the floodwater without putting someone else in the floodwater, basically. So if I'm not explaining that right, yell. But and I feel the same way about my explanations of what you can and can't do. If Dustin or Scott have issue with what I'm saying, speak up now instead of having to fix it later.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I definitely know we have a housing issue. Obviously, I know how you guys feel, not wanting this growth across the street from you. I have the same growth going on right next to me, and I'm not happy about it, but I also understand that people do have property rights, and I feel it's important to protect those property rights. If people buy property, I feel like they should be able to use it how they want to a certain extent. I feel like I'm with John. If we can put in some sort of deed restriction, I'm okay with the 5 half-acre lots, if that's possible.
Are you okay with them being 20,000 square foot? Because that's kind of we call it a buildable half acre.
How many that give, 5, 20?
Right, but that's what the zoning allows, is either 6,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. It's just how our system's set up. You can do what you want, but it's going to be easier to put it in the system if.
That's 20,000 square foot.
Which at 20,000, at 10,000 square feet, that entire parcel doesn't have room for 11. So at 20, it doesn't have, I mean, it's double the size of the lot, but it still doesn't allow for any extra room, really.
Okay.
If you tell him half acre, he has to be exact. He can't move a line to make it more usable.
Yeah, that would be 5.45 parcels. If someone wanted to split, you would only, at 20,000, you only have 5.445.
Right.
So that you
can't make
you wouldn't be able to make a 6th.
You can't ever make an extra piece out of it.
Okay.
It would be, it would be limiting him to 5 pieces, but it'd give him some room to make the narrow ones wider and then, you know, whatever with that wedge piece. Just make it easier for him to make the lots usable.
Manager Welker?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what direction the board's gonna go here, but I think if they're going to consider 20,000, I'd like the applicant to be on record to say that's something that would be acceptable to him today before you actually vote on it, if that's gonna be a motion.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, whatever y'all decide, up to and including 20,000 would be totally fine. Half acre would be fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Is there any more discussion?
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Comments? Do you have a motion?
Okay, let's make sure I do this right. I'll make a motion to approve this rezoning general land use zone to RSB single family residential on APN 105-35-180, stipulated that only be 20,000 square foot lots.
Minimum.
Minimum. Was that the correct way to do that? Okay, thank you.
And I'll appreciate the concerns. I haven't discounted your input, and I just try to balance things. So I apologize for offending you, and appreciate the legacy of your family, and kind of glad your dad's not here. He'd probably have a hard time with this. So anyway, I'll go ahead and second Supervisor Howard's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Before I say I want to echo what Paul said there. I really sympathize. These are very, very difficult decisions. Sometimes it seems like we're picking on people, but it's not. We have to make these decisions, and again, I understand your concerns, and I will be looking into some traffic control for you and some solutions. So I will say aye, I guess.
All in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Aye.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
We will now close our public hearing and go back into our regular meeting. We do have one call to the public from Mr. Ron Glassby with Search and Rescue.
Sorry, I had to make him wait so long. We should let him go first.
I just want to say thank you to our Board of Supervisors. Also, Danny Smith was part of building program. I want to have a shout out to him. County Manager Dustin Welker. Many people around here in the county, many people made a dream come true for us at Search and Rescue of adding on to the building. And phase 1 is completed. I'll be getting with Julie today, tomorrow, completing all the paperwork so that the building will become part of the county, designated as Search and Rescue from what I understand. I got a couple of numbers here. If I can find them in my book. Where are you at? Notes. We started out at $425,000 for the building. We narrowed it down, Loopy, Monuse, and a few others. We brought it back down to $380,000. Then we added a big apron on it, so we brought it right back up. So with the awesome work of Kim Lackner. Praise that lady, keeping me honest, keeping all the books. The building ended up coming out costing the county, the Board of Supervisors, everybody that proceeded, giving us donations throughout the county. The building was $425,504.99. So I got one penny we got to keep back there. The one thing I want to say, besides the county and everybody's donation to make this happen, it was a dream of mine, it was a dream of different people, took it on, and it just love it. But our squad, through in-kind donations and fundraisers, they raised, just our team alone, not the county, our team raised $64,330.39 throughout all their effort of the whole team going out and doing Merry Main Street, Salsa Fest, the many raffles we had, and everything else. So we do have a great volunteer group out there that they do work very hard to get where they're at, and they put a lot of effort into this building. So just not me, it's the whole team. So just want to appreciate everybody. Thank you.
You guys have an amazing team, and your open house was exciting and fun, and can't stress enough how grateful we are to you guys.
One more place to train and work, and phase 2 will start over. Tommy and Pete's doing a great job leading it.
Oh.
Thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you. All right. Do we have any other calls to the public, Hannah? Okay. We will go ahead and adjourn our meeting, and want to thank everybody again for coming, and appreciate your involvement. So have a good day.